In a world where most people watch movies and then forget about them, these brave heroes join forces to watch them again and then talk about them. Join them in their epic journey as they go back in time, a decade and beyond, to revisit and break down films from a vast array of genres. Do these movies hold up over time? Are they classics? Find out on Retro Movie Roundtable. Starring your hosts, Brian Fry, Chad Robinson, Dustin Melbardis, Nathan Lutz, and Russell Guest. Coming now to headphones in your ears.
Welcome all you lords, ladies and knights, to the Retro Movie Roundtable. Welcome to the show where we watch movies and then talk about them. I am your host, Russell Guest, and joining me today is my very good friend from deep in the heart of Texas, Dustin Melbardis. How you doing, sir?
Doing great. It's an excellent day, like 8 straight beautiful days in a row for us here in Texas. I'm actually at my work office surrounded by greenery in the luscious hill country.
Yes, and if you're from Dustin's work, he's not working, he's just at work. Clarification, yeah. And somebody who I used to work with is on the show, Dustin, Mr. DJ Bryant. How you doing, DJ?
I'm doing well. How are y'all?
I'm good. It's been too long since we've had you on here. This is your 4th time, I think.
Yes, that is correct. 4th. Yeah.
All right. I don't have jackets for 5-timers, but maybe we should have them tailored.
We should get jackets for just this episode because this is going to be a killer. I'm so excited about this one.
All right. So DJ, just generally, what's a movie that's not necessarily well regarded, but you like it?
So, I think that this movie is somewhat well regarded among a select few. It's just very unknown. I'm going to say Noise is Off from 1992. It has actors such as Carol Burnett, Michael Caine, Mary Lou Henner, Christopher Reeve, John Ritter, and Nicolette Sheridan, and it's hilarious.
I didn't realize, John, what did you say this was?
1992.
Okay. Yeah, that's not even on my radar, I guess.
It's new to me. Does it have like a cult following? Is that why you say it's really highly regarded by some people?
Yeah, so typically like it would start off as a stage play, and it's a very strenuous production, and so it earned the bad rep of kind of being the actor killer or injurer. Not killer, but injurer definitely. Because there's a lot of quick scene changes, and there's a lot of just kind of moving parts and pieces to it.
And that is what killed John Ritter.
Oh no. Oh no.
Oh no. No, we all know it was a clown that came back from 20 years ago. All right.
Oh, that clown.
Yes.
You all float down here.
Yes, he is one of the people who have to deal with it. So I could use a spinoff where Tim Curry and Bill Skarsgård go face to face. Which Pennywise is scarier because they're both very frightening. So
makeup to makeup. It'll always be Tim Curry for me.
Dustin, how about you? What's a movie that you have enjoyed, but maybe the ratings and people say not so much?
So I've actually created an entire sort of movie rating system based on me liking movies that are considered poor. I think there's 4 categories, and you can kind of be in 2 at once. There's good movies, there's bad movies, there's movies you love, and movies you don't love. And you can certainly love a bad movie, and you can certainly not love a good movie, right? So you can pick 2. And so my number 1 that is universally panned, 3.9 on IMDb, 14% on Rotten Tomatoes, is You Got Served from the early 2000s, featuring young Marcus Houston and Omari Granberry, also known as Omarion. It's a world where hip-hop dance groups can go perform in a warehouse owned by Steve Harvey, and earn a lot of money until some white kids from the suburbs come in and trick you out of that money. And then, Lil' Kim gives an incredibly drunk performance for the whole thing. It's an incredible movie. It's also pretty bad.
Interesting. One of my co-hosts, Chad, pointed out to me at one point that I shouldn't like this movie, but I was like, it's not a bad movie. And then I looked it up, and apparently it does have a 20% on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics, 50 score, 50% from the audience meter. But I kind of like You, Me, and Dupree with Owen Wilson. But yeah, but apparently I should be ashamed of this, I've been told. So that's my unapologetic. I like that one. And what's the last movie you saw, DJ?
Last movie I saw was actually a documentary on Netflix called Fantastic Fungi from 2019.
Ooh, that sounds interesting as well. Dustin, what about you?
Who's the fun guy?
This guy. No.
Well, you got served, obviously. No, I also watched Spider-Man 2. I saw the trailer for the new Spider-Man coming out, saw that they teased Doc Ock, so I was like, I can get into some Sam Raimi shenanigans, so I rewatched Spider-Man 2.
All right. I'm guessing you don't feel compelled to go on to the spot rewatch Spider-Man 3, though.
I'll rewatch that one. I'm not ashamed of those, like, 2000, 2005 movies that weren't incredible. Another one that would fit into a movie that's panned, but I like it. Got
it. And I'm doing a little bit of homework for my 2011 movies countdown, when we count down the top 10 movies of 2011 coming up here not too far down the line. So I went back and picked up J. Edgar. Never saw it at the time, kind of just meant to, but I'd heard some kind of press saying it was a little slow, long, and boring, and not quite as eventful as you might think, even though it's a fine performance by DiCaprio. And I find that it's long, slow, boring, and even though it's a fine performance from DiCaprio. But anyway, today we are on to what, Dustin?
1986 is A Little Shop of Horrors.
That's right. It was made for $25 million. It grosses $38.7 million. It places at 25 on the box office. Three Amigos comes in ahead of it at 24, and behind it is About Last Night. The number one movie from 1986 is Top Gun, and I'm constantly ribbed at by other people on this show that I think Top Gun is overrated, and then I'm quickly booed. So you can boo me if you need to, but I think Top Gun's overrated.
Well, is it overrated, or is it a movie that's universally like loved that you don't like? Does it fit into my two system? Like, do you just not like it, or do you also feel like it's overrated?
Both of those. It's on the line between. Yeah, so
I just think it's overrated.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I think
it's.
I will say that, like, for Top Gun and me, it is sentimental in that whenever would go to the dentist as a kid, they had this like goggle device that they would put over your eyes and show you a movie, and Top Gun was like one of 4 options. So that was usually my dentist experience, watching Top Gun.
Wow.
That's awesome. I've never heard of this.
Well, we're watching a movie today that you definitely don't want to watch in a dentist chair.
Oh, king of segues.
Little Shop of Horrors gets a 7.0 on IMDb, and the critics of Rotten Tomatoes love it. They give it a 90%, and the audience scores it 79%. It gets an Academy Award nomination, 2 of them actually, for Best Visual Effects and Best Original Song. And it gets 2 Golden Globe nominations for Best Comedy or Musical and Best Original Score. It doesn't take home any hardware, but it's generally well praised and successful at the box office. So DJ, tell us, what is your background with Little Shop of Horrors? When was the first time you saw it, and what's it like coming back to it now?
Yeah, sure. So I probably would have seen this back in the early 2000s as I was going through my kind of musical theater kind of awakening in high school, middle school and high school. I feel like it was probably on HBO or something at the time, maybe TBS. And it was one of those things that you could just kind of pick it up and watch it at any point, and it was always enjoyable. And now going back to it, I love it even more.
Yeah, it has great rewatch value. So do you feel like it's getting better with time, or just kind of like right in there?
I 100% think so. We'll talk about the special effects later, but I think those have held up well through time. Like, it's not too cheesy or hokey, and it looks beautiful today as well as it probably did back then.
Yeah. Dustin, you eagerly picked this off of, our guest gave us 3 options, and you shut it back and forth down quickly and said, we're doing Little Shop of Horrors. I detect that you're a big fan of this one.
Of our host group, I'm the one that's seen the fewest movies, and so when one of my favorites just comes along, I have to jump on it. I saw this. I actually owned a VHS like cassette of this. I had very few movies growing up. I had Groundhog Day. I had Fern Gully. I had Little Nemo's Adventures in Slumberland. And I had.
And you've told us you have an empty case of Lucky Number 11.
Yeah, I got that in like high school though. I still have that case and no DVD in it. But I had this cassette, and so it had been a part of my life since at least middle school. DJ, I was thinking about this, and I'm wondering if this was part of like a phase or a time in your life, because when I've been introduced to musicals, I will love to listen to it, or I will, like, if there's a movie version or a stage production, like I get into it, but I really just get into that one for a time. I didn't go through a period of like, oh, now I need to watch Rent, and now I need to look into Hairspray, and now I need, like, it didn't like evolve into like a period for me. Like, this was just a movie that I grew up with, loved, can sing every song, you know, I know all the musical cues. But it didn't come from like performing it myself. Did you ever perform it?
No, I didn't actually. And I wish I had been given the opportunity to do so. For me, like, I have an obsessive personality, so the umbrella was musical theater, and I would like pick out like Rent or Little Shop of Horrors or a sundry other musicals and just obsess over them for a while. So this was kind of in the trajectory of those obsessions.
Yeah, was Rocky Horror Picture Show one of those? Because I know you did that one when you came on before.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, yep. And this seems like it would fit really well with that. It didn't surprise me at all once I got back into studying this one. I saw some similarities, and I'll mention that later, but I also saw this one in high school. And I stumbled across it on TV, and I did come in the middle of it, and it was Bill Murray in a dentist chair. And I was like, what is this with Steve Martin and Bill Murray? I need to know more. And I stuck it out through the rest of the movie. I rarely come in the middle of a movie, but I was too enamored with it right away. And so I kind of had that, like, I need to see this from the beginning later. And it took me a little while to come across it again, but I watched it from start to finish, and I loved it. And something strange happened. I just didn't talk about it. Like, I didn't pick it up. I didn't watch it with my wife necessarily. I didn't watch it with my parents or anybody like that, and it just kind of fell off my radar. And sometimes when this happens to a movie, you start to like be like, yeah, that was good, and like it unfairly starts to fall down. So when it came up and we studied it, I was like, wow, I forgot how much I really enjoyed this movie. Why have I not seen this? And I mean, gosh, 15 years or something like that, probably. I mean, why has it been so long? And it really, really is good. And when you start to study it, how they made it, you gain even more appreciation for it. So, yeah, I don't think I'll be away from this one quite as long as I was then. Funny thing, I watched this one actually 3 times preparing for this podcast, and I showed it to my parents as one of them. Just they were up here visiting, and my dad's like, I've actually never seen it. And he's a dentist. So I was like, wow, I'm just going to caution you. There's a mean dentist in here. He's like, yeah, watch it anyway. And they got through with it, and he's like, that was really funny. Like, he had seen a stage performance of it, and the stage performance is different. And my dad had also seen the 1960 version of Little Shop of Horrors and really thought it was super not remarkable and didn't have like a palette to like say, if that was the original, I certainly don't have a need to see the remake. And he's like, I really wasn't aware it was a musical. And he came out of there singing praises of all the funny comedians and stuff in the cast. And so sometimes it's one of those things where maybe I should have shared this with people more, because it's a people pleaser from what I can tell. It's a really fun movie. And so I think it's not only holding up well, I'm disappointed in myself for letting myself get so far from it. I don't often say that in this podcast. Normally I make a point of revisiting movies I like this much, but this is one that's just really been on the shelf since high school for me, and I haven't watched it since.
So jumping off of what you just said, I too watched this 3 times in preparing for this because I just loved it so much again, as well as I went back and saw the 1960s version, which is not a musical. I mean, it's very different, in my opinion, than this version of this.
It is very different, and it is. I actually only got through about 40 minutes, which is over half of the movie. Both movies are quite short, but I didn't watch it several times. But I'll show you guys. I actually have the soundtrack like on my phone. Like I listen to this, yeah. Like as I scroll through, you know, sometimes it's just like pick a playlist. Sometimes it's pick an album, and you never want, you know, Drink With Me from Les Miserables to get in the way of your workout music. If I'm cleaning the house, I just put the soundtrack on and I clean away. I love the music. I've seen the movie probably 24 times. But I will say that 1960 version is funny. Like its particular humor is quick and dry, and you can see that it maintains in the 86 version that we watched for this show.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little more about that here on the other side, but there will be spoilers that lie ahead. We won't probably spoil the 60s version too much, but we will draw some points of comparison. And we will be spoiling the heck out of 1986's Little Shop of Horrors. So if you haven't seen it, you're going to want to pause it, watch the movie, and come back. And if you're not spoiler-verse, then stick it through and come with us. We'll be back after this.
Da-do.
Welcome to the Flashback Flicks Retro Movie Podcast. I'm Ricky.
I'm Grayson.
And every week we review a movie from the past and reflect on things we missed, things we loved, and things we want to see again.
Yeah, because we believe any movie worth watching is worth watching again.
So if you like films, friendship, and a lot of callbacks,
I mean, just so many callbacks.
then subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever RSS feeds go for like-minded movie-loving individuals. Like you.
What happens when two modern film fans go back and rewatch all the old classic films from yesteryear to see if they hold up? You get the Classic Film Jerks podcast. Find the Classic Film Jerks podcast on all the major platforms.
All right, we're back, and this is your final warning. There are spoilers that lie ahead. Now, Dustin, for those who haven't seen Little Shop of Horrors since 1986, want to refresh people's memories.
In a decade not so far from our own, we learn about the goings-on of a community around Mushnick's flower shop on Skid Row. Mr. Mushnick employs sad sack Seymour Krelborn and serial bad decision-maker Audrey as they all work together to try to make ends meet. They float the idea that a strange and unusual plant might bring in customers, of which Seymour has recently just purchased from Chang's for $1.95. After learning that this plant can only grow if it drinks blood or eats fresh meat, a torn Krelborn has to make the difficult choice to feed the met their end curiously at the right time dentist and Mr. Mushnick to the plant, named Audrey too. The plant grows and grows, and Seymour gains reputable fame from it. Audrey and Seymour realize that they are made for each other and fall in love, but their obstacle to escaping Skid Row is blocked by a now gargantuan, man-eating flytrap monster, which nearly devours Audrey before being electrocuted to death by Seymour. We close on a suspicious bud in the hedges of the matchbox in the suburbs, somewhere green.
Yeah. Now, so what are the ingredients that make this so unique and special, DJ?
That's a really good question. So I'm going to bring in the 1960s version because I think, Dustin, you touched on this, where there were like nascent elements of comedy and kind of cleverness in that version that I feel was amped up on steroids. So first and foremost, the tying in of the dentist, who was really just, I would say, kind of a background character in the original, but now he has more of a presence, being that he's Audrey's abusive boyfriend, as well as the whole musical theater aspect of things. The set's beautiful. The story is very well put together, very well told and complete. It doesn't kind of leave you kind of scratching your head like missing anything. It's very rewarding to watch.
Yeah, you're not missing anything. And sometimes it's like very clearly told to you, but that's fine. We've only got 72 minutes to work with here, and it's in that amount of time you get everything that you need. With the early version, there's some clunkiness to it, at least the first 40 minutes that I saw, and some things that aren't as fully developed. And this movie really does a great job of very quickly giving you the things you need to understand. This girl's in a bad relationship. This dude is a bad dude. There's not much like he's funny. Steve Martin plays a great Dr. Oren Scrivello DDS, but like we know he's a bad guy. We get that Mushnick has, he wants to make money, but he's got a moral side, which I actually noticed in the 1960s version as well. Everything that you need, the movie gives you.
I think it's interesting that the content is obviously on the dark side. You're dealing with characters in depressed situations, in a depressed neighborhood, and it's somehow at no point really depressing itself. I think the music is so vital to that. The music sounds like it's out of a 1950s or 60s sock hop, and somehow there is a sense of fun that comes from that, and that feeling of fun is accompanied with these amazing comedic performances by the actors. And it's somehow, I was sitting there thinking, it's like, really this could be like Sweeney Todd. I mean, the plant viciously eats people, and the situations that they're in aren't that fun. And like little storefront, people go in and get killed. But I was sitting there thinking, it's like, wow, what a separation that makes, because the nostalgia of the era that they put this in, the tipping of the hat to the B movie horrors movies from the 50s and 60s that this comes out of, and met with amazing comedic performances, as well as, I have to say, there's a lot of newer, like Dustin was kind of mentioning before, like Hairspray and stuff like that. Sometimes newer movies, Mamma Mia, like these movies don't necessarily put emphasis on people who can sing. And they're just like, hey, what big names can we shove in this? And everybody here can sing. So that's really impressive to me. And that makes it a really unique recipe, particularly given that it comes from the 80s, because we're not seeing a lot of musicals from this era, unless I'm not thinking of something. DJ, it's like a dry spell for musicals at this era.
Yeah. And the singing is also like, it is, not only is it good, it has this kind of soul-soaked, kind of heartfelt pain in it as well, which I think helps to balance it out, so you get the kind of the fun aspect of it, but it really hits you in the heart.
That's a good point. Is everything is, and sometimes it's the angles involved in shooting it. It really looks like it's being belted out by particularly Audrey and Seymour. With Audrey too, you do get just like the awesome voice with the animatronic. And I know, DJ, you mentioned like this holds up, and it certainly does. To think that a gigantic plant can sing and it feels like it's singing. It's not like a puppet. It's not like a ventriloquism. Like it feels real. It seems as if they're belting it out as if they're like on a stage. Very, very cool thing that I like. Another reason I love this podcast is I already knew I loved the movie, but I didn't know that like the intimacy of their singing was something that I thoroughly enjoyed as much as I now clearly realize I do.
And I think it's such an interesting road to take, because it was a movie, as DJ pointed out, a Roger Corman directed 1960s movie, and there's some differences there, and it's not a musical at all. And I find it so unexpected that there was an off-Broadway musical production made of it. I wouldn't say that this was something that was so remarkable that, man, we got to make this into a musical. And the fact that somebody stopped and wrote music for this really feels different to me than where it had started from. And then obviously this is an adaptation of a musical production. So it's really surprising. So there's layers in there. Like you have the basic characters. The man-eating plant comes from that 60s version. But then like this Greek trio of backup singers and stuff, Chiffon, Crystal, and Ronette, which are all three different trio women singing groups from the 60s. Yeah, that's fun in its own right. But they introduced some of the pizzazz that you have in this movie. But this Broadway play was not set at the time period. So that was something that they came into this production and made a distinct decision that says, we're going to make this a nostalgia piece in addition to all these things. So it's kind of interesting that it's evolved, and it's a thing that's built off of another thing that's built off of another thing. But I think it's getting better as they've continued to play with that. I don't know if that's fair or not.
I agree completely. I think you can definitely see how the evolution and the layers added on have made for something a lot better than the original from where they began. Also, I'm a sucker for a Greek chorus, so give me a Greek chorus any day of the year.
And if they sound like they're from Motown, all the better.
All the better.
One of the things that I think is interesting is if you go by what's written for the musical, that the end of this is dramatically different. And you can YouTube what the original movie ending of this was, which was a faithful adaptation of that, where the plants eat Seymour and then proliferate and take over the entire United States. There's a couple of additional music numbers that are associated with this that are actually pretty good musical numbers, but they chose to not go that direction. Test audiences just didn't like it. And they went back and reworked the movie before releasing it. And I know I sent both of you guys this, like the original ending. Dustin, how does that original ending feel? And did you like the decision to rework it, or do you kind of wish they had stuck with that off-Broadway ending?
Somebody had made the comment on one of those clips. And what's funny is that when I pulled up the clip you sent me, it gives you suggested videos, and all the suggested videos were like Little Shop of Horrors clips, and all of them were already previously watched. Because of course I've consumed so much Little Shop of Horrors, like the blooper reel, different cut like clips, like even like high school stage productions of stuff I've watched. It's like it's such a great content that I want more of it. But I did watch it, and It seemed like one of the comments that was put was like, wow, they put a lot of work into this. It's a shame they didn't use it. Because it was a lot of cool puppeteering, the giant Audrey 2s, the huge, like, I mean, obviously these are models, or I would assume that they're models, busting down New York City. I think there's a really cool picture of like one of them like on the middle of a bridge. That's a better scene than the ending scene. Which is on top of the Statue of Liberty. The one with the Audrey 2 on the bridge is really cool. And speaking of the musical number, that particular one is like it definitely has a lot of "Gimme Some Lovin'." I don't know. It's like an 11-minute alternate ending, and a lot of it is this kind of driving rock music. It goes too long, unfortunately, including the scene of Seymour being eaten. That takes too long. And I feel like that's maybe the only thing about it is they really wanted to use what Levi Stubbs, is that the right guy's name? Levi Stubbs?
Yeah,
they really wanted to use his laugh, They really want to use that, and they use it too much in that alternate ending. I think that alternate ending is fun. I don't think it's better. I like the 1986 like theatrical release version, but I really do like that alternate ending. It's just like that would need to be trimmed down from 11 minutes to 6 minutes. I think they did such a great job of keeping the rest of the movie short, succinct, exactly what you need, that adding on, 15% of the movie's runtime as just let's watch these big plant Muppets destroy things, unneeded. It would need to be toned down a little bit. But I like the idea of keeping it true. But I'm kind of a sucker for, the way things end in the 1986 version.
Yeah. And now, DJ, there's one other ending beyond that. As you mentioned, the 1960s version, somewhat similar, but also different in its own right. Who wraps up this movie best? Is it the play? Is it the 60s version? Or is it the 86 version?
Oh, I think I'm going to say the 86 version. And for this, I'm actually going to use Frank Oz's own kind of recollection of it. He said he learned a really pivotal lesson in this with the original ending, that in a stage play, you kill the leads and they come out for a bow. In a movie, they don't come back, they're dead. And so you've just kind of created a lot of emotional trauma for the audience who've invested a lot into these people that they know, that they think they know, and they're now dead. So I think that the 86, the way they tied it up, was done very well. I also like that the fact that we get the glimmer of the monster story not being over yet with the ending scene. The little Audrey 2 kind of waiting in the front yard for them.
That's such a tip of the hat to that. Again, this movie is drenched in nostalgic love for those 50s and 60s chiller science fiction horror movies, and having a little Audrey, either known or unknown, just sprouting up in the lawn in front of their suburban home. It does fun. Like, I mean, that's what a horror movie does. They crack the door open. Whether or not they choose to take that sequel, that's another thing. But they always gonna say, like, there might be a little more mayhem still to come. So I thought,
and the mayhem in the movie was fun. And because the mayhem is fun, you get to potentially play around, and then you've got the very high on the keys, like piano starting again. To kind of roll into the credit music, like, here it goes again. Very, very fun ending with the 1986.
I was wondering, is there a way you can have your cake and eat it too? So in the movie, Seymour's like knocked under a pile of bricks. Audrey 2 pulls the whole building down on him, and you're worried that could be the end for Seymour. It's not. But before he rallies and electrocutes the plant in the final version, I thought, wouldn't it be cool, like, if he has, like, a dream, like I got hit in the head with some bricks, and, like, I'm in a, like, blurry stupor where he can see what happens if he doesn't stop this plant, thus like it grows, and they can keep a shortened version of this. To Dustin's point, I actually think it does go on a little bit too long, but could they have kept that like musical number of subsequent events where the Greek chorus is singing, and then like they show some of that amazing movie footage, and then he comes to his senses and says, I've got to take my last desperation and, electrocute this plant. And I thought maybe there was time in the movie, and with a little bit of editing of those numbers that they cut, because it was a lot of money they cut out too. I mean, I believe it was give me a second here.
To answer your question, I think that would be cool. I don't think the movie is lacking in any way, but if they could be done to where maybe there's some assistance being pulled out of the bricks by Audrey herself, or maybe there's something else, but it would need to be kept succinct. If we draw that out, then all of a sudden this becomes it might maybe wouldn't fit. But I love the idea. Like it's cool to have both, like you're saying, but I don't think it's wanting.
Yeah, I don't need an 11-minute guitar solo, which that other alternate ending does have. But like if you cut it down to like 5 minutes, you probably keep a musical number in there that you had to lose otherwise, and then you don't waste all that budget and hard work puppeteering and stuff like that. So I don't know, that to me, that's a third cut that we didn't get to see, where you still get your happy ending, but then you get to see the plants going King Kong all over the place, or Godzilla all over the city.
Or maybe what's going on is during the only song I feel like that lasts too long, and maybe the tone's a lot of places, Mean Green Mother from Outer Space, maybe as he's describing, maybe during the almost spoken breakdown, I refuse to call it a rap, like when he's saying I'm from outer space, I'm from beyond the moon, I'm coming here to take over your place. Like maybe there's just flashes of this is what the takeover would look like, and then the song is still going, and then Seymour busts out of the bricks and the rubble to save the day.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And what about the romance, DJ? Do you like this nebbish character? And how would you describe Audrey? That she's such an extreme character.
Oh yeah, I mean, Ellen Greene is brilliant in this role with the voice she puts on, which I would love to imitate, but I can't. I would just embarrass myself. It's just kind of mousy little voice.
Seymour.
Yeah, exactly.
Mr. Mushnick.
Yeah, I can only do it a little bit.
And he's been working on it for a month.
I've been working on it for 20 years.
But you really do feel for her because, she, as do all of them, you do feel like that this is ultimately a story about people in a rough spot in life who are trying to find a way out. And what better way than to find each other and get out of it together? It's kind of it's a very happy love story.
I like that it's somewhat obvious, but they both suffer from such low self-esteem that they're both holding themselves back. He's got no confidence to say why would she pick me? Which I love characters like that. And on the other hand, she's got this oh, he's awesome, which I think is so funny and a little bit atypical, because normally that nebbish nerd-like character has to prove themselves or whatever. It's the notion of just they have to do something to be seen. But in this case, she views him as a nice guy that she just doesn't deserve. And that's something that's a little unusual and funny, because they both kind of are melting over each other, but then they both believe that they can't have each other. And so they're both so accessible and attainable to each other. It's really funny. It's almost like French fries are man, I wish I could sit next to a hamburger, and the hamburger's oh man, I wish I could sit next to French fries. It's you can. You can have your hamburger and your French fries, and when they get together, it's delightful.
What an analogy. I was about to say, what, none of you have ever been rejected by someone saying that, you're too good for me? Because that's happened to me quite a bunch. It is funny. A departure from the 1960 version in The 60s, he's kind of like he messes everything up. He slips over everything. He can't cut the flowers right. Like he does things poorly. Whereas Seymour in the 86 version is maybe not a genius, but at least he's capable. And he only has time to like read about the flowers in his books, and he takes the time to go to the other flower shops. Like he has at least a proficiency in the job that he does. He's not just like a schmo who doesn't understand anything. I think that's a huge improvement, and I'm totally into the romance aspect of this movie.
Now, DJ, you mentioned liking Ellen Greene, but how would you feel had Cyndi Lauper been cast in this? Because she was offered the role. Casting the original stage star Ellen Greene ended up happening, but Lauper wanted the part, but she couldn't commit due to recording and touring schedules at the time. So we nearly got Cyndi Lauper on this one. So
to further that, I've allegedly heard a lot of accounts. So Cyndi Lauper being one, Madonna being another, Barbra Streisand being a third. It's hard to say because they didn't get the role, and I see Ellen Greene as being the one and only true Audrey. To me, at least now. I mean, she originated the role as the off-Broadway play, and I think she kind of proved her chops there. She's continued to perform in the role to this day, and she still looks great. She sounds great. She's even referred to the makeup and the character that she takes on now as doing drag, basically, because it's like a lot of makeup, a lot of hair.
Yeah, it's just she's so done up like that Long Island thing, right?
It's just like hyper feminine, like Dolly Parton, Nicki Minaj-esque kind of, creature.
Yeah.
Creature.
She wears you're right. She wears blue eye makeup, and she's a bit over the top for sure. I think that's funny when she goes, "I can help you shop," and he goes, "Well, I don't have very good taste in clothing, not like you do." You're right, DJ. She sticks out so much. I couldn't put my finger on it at the time. I was like, why is that funny? But you just nailed it. I was like, yeah, there's a drag-like quality to the character.
I love what she's talking about, the cheap and tawdry clothes that she wears in the gutter at the night spot. Not nice ones like this.
Not nice like these.
The nice ones, and half of her cleavage is hanging out. And I'm like, the nice ones, okay.
That is quite the décolletage. Yeah, there's something about it to where I'll use this word. I don't think it's exactly accurate, but a bimbo character tends to be on the unlikable side. I think this is the most likable bimbo you've ever seen, or listened to, or heard, and it helps that she's got the voice of an angel, even with that affectation. I will say I've only met one person who I've had an in-depth discussion about this movie who said that she can't stand Ellen Greene, and because of it can't stand rewatching the movie. Likes the story, but because she can't stand that voice.
Wait, does she not can't stand the character because she makes bad decisions and it's hard to watch?
Just the voice.
Just the voice.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, so that's my issue. I like Madonna, I like Cyndi Lauper, and I hadn't heard the Barbra Streisand one. I feel like these are great vocalists, and they certainly could look the part, but when it comes time to acting in this manner, boy, I'm kind of glad we got Ellen Greene, because I don't think the other ones have this in their repertoire. And Ellen Greene brings the singing, the acting, and this is something that I think a lot of movies should take note of. It's a really important character, and they went ahead and got the stage actress, and you fill in around that. And I think there's times whether it be Les Mis or something like that, where it's just maybe you don't put Russell Crowe in there. Maybe you get somebody who can really sing,
Did that come out when we were in college together?
Les Mis or no?
Les Mis, the Les Mis movie.
Yeah, that came out after. I don't remember the exact timeline, but I was out of college.
It was like 2 years after, because I was still in Tennessee at that point. I said the exact same thing, being a huge fan of that show and that soundtrack, also on my phone. Russell Crowe, who I like.
I like him.
Absolutely terrible Javert.
Yeah, I mentioned Mamma Mia earlier. I love Pierce Brosnan. He's James Bond. But you know what he doesn't do? He doesn't sing well. So
no,
it makes me hurt for him as well as for the movie. So get people who can sing is a big part of this.
Is there a behind the scenes of Rick Moranis being a great singer? Is there something about Like, do we know if this was his real voice? I trust, usually Russell, I trust you to know the behind the scenes stuff like this. But I love his, he has the chops, wouldn't you say?
Rick Moranis has a musical career, actually.
Wow.
So you can look this up if you want to, and so he does have musical ability. I mean, he may not be on the vocal ability of, say, an Ellen Greene, but as you witnessed in this movie, he definitely holds his own, and he's certainly not in the Russell Crowe category.
No, he's not. Steve Martin, another guy with an established musical career, and his bit parts or his singing parts in the movie, great.
Exactly, and so you put the characters who can't sing, you fill those with funny roles and stuff like that. So like Bill Murray probably is not a beautiful vocalist, but it doesn't matter. He's just funny, you know. I mean, even Vincent Gardenia, like he doesn't have a musical number in there, so it doesn't matter whether he can sing or not. The people who can sing are put in the right seats, and the music happens beautifully, and then the comedy is there to service it as well. To me, this is really good casting. DJ, we haven't talked about this. What do we think about the villain Steve Martin's character in this one?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, he is easy to hate or dislike in terms of, like, his intro is perfect. Like, he's talking about all the things he did as a kid. And hearing him talk about, I think poisoning guppies, bashing a cat's head in, all these terrible things. I'm like, this sounds like Dexter. Like, this is like Dexter, the premise of Dexter. Like, here's a serial killer. Let's find a profession for you that you can use your talents innately. And hey, he's a dentist. Perfect. Great.
Yeah, and he's chewing every minute of scenery he gets too. Like,
yeah,
he's just taking this one and dialing it up to 11. And, so much of this was his own choosing, whether it be to pull the little doll's head off in the waiting room or whether it was to flat out punch his own nurse assistant. Yes.
Or he waits by the door listening for her to come along so he can open the door and smack her in the face with the door.
It's difficult to create such an abusive character and to create them for laughs. And Steve Martin is really good at walking that line. Like, everything that he does is still funny. Like, hitting your female, staff in the face sounds horrible, but again, you're singing it to sock hop 60s music. And Steve Martin just has this, goofiness about him, even as he's playing such an imposing character. I was sitting there thinking, how many people can walk this line? In fact, I think he actually deliberately takes a few steps over the line at times, but it's Steve Martin, and he's just doing it so ridiculously, so exaggerated, it's working really well.
I'm going to want some gas for this. I got to tell you, I think it's scene dependent, and this is just more kudos to the entire movie, right? His musical number, when he's singing about his profession, is comedy. And then you have the scene with, what is his name? Arthur Denton. The
masochist?
The masochist, I think, was actually originally part of the character's name. His name was just the masochist. And that is, you can see his frustration building. You can see that he's not getting what he wants. This is a problem with serially violent people. And then there is the shorter scene. I think it's during Feed Me. But it's where the musical number isn't focused on him. You see Audrey and Dr. Oren Scrivello DDS get back from dinner or something, and he's yelling at her to open the door faster, calling her a scatterbrain for falling off the motorcycle, and it's only 20 seconds, but that's when you get a full-on abuse, a full-on slap. Sorry, as if verbal abuse is not abuse, but full physical abuse. You see it. Seymour sees it. The guy sure looks like plant food to me. That scene is different than the rest of the comedy, and that's the over the line that was necessary to be all right, yeah, we love Steve Martin. It's funny. Remember the arrow through the head, but this guy's a bad guy. They do a great job letting you know.
You're right. They make you hate him, and you have to hate him. Otherwise, what Seymour does seems more repugnant. Even though somehow dragging a dead body down a fire escape and then chopping it up with an axe and stuff like that, you're just it's Rick Moranis. This is fun. Even though it's exactly what Sweeney Todd ends up doing, just this is kind of mean. I'm not sure I'm into this. So,
definitely different tones and different things you like about those productions or those movies. I've seen the Johnny Depp and who's the female lead in that one?
Helena Bonham Carter.
Of course, yeah. How do you forget, right? But I've seen that one a couple times, and it's got its own charm. But this is on its own pedestal, on its own level of just being able to hit these marks in such a tight 72.
How is this the only movie on-screen performance with Steve Martin and Bill Murray? Like, is it just that they're both... Yeah, I was going to say, is it just that they're both such powerhouses? They never landed next to each other? Like, they're both, like, the engine that drives comedy, like, in a scene, but, like, they're so funny together. Like, how did we not get Steve Martin and Bill Murray, like, anchoring an entire movie together? It's really frustrating that this one dentist scene, which isn't that long, is all we get, and they're just so funny together. Because one of the things that Steve Martin does is he continues to add, evolve, and play off of each other, and Bill Murray is ad-libbing everything. The editor had a really hard time putting this together cohesively because nothing Bill Murray says was scripted. Everything that he was doing was different, and he was doing it different every time. And Steve Martin's so adept and adroit that he could just put it all together and work with them. And when you have two geniuses just clicking on cylinders like that, if you ever watch like Whose Line Is It Anyway, and you're just in awe, like, man, these guys are so good on their toes. These guys are so funny. These guys have that magical thing. It's just like, just keep the camera rolling. We'll figure it out later because this is all very, very funny.
I'm glad you brought up Bill Murray's improvisation, and I have a feeling that may be part of the reason why we haven't seen them together again, because it took 6 weeks to film that one little scene, because he was constantly just improvising. And allegedly, too, I've read conflicting reports, so I don't know how true this is. It was his suggestion that when Oren Scrivello DDS enter in off of the street from his motorcycle, that he sock the dental hygienist assistant in the face. Initially, he was supposed to clop her over the head with a helmet. So
it's almost, if I'm picking up what you're laying down, it's almost as if we don't need two head chefs here. We need somebody to play second fiddle, and with two powerhouses that might be difficult. Especially if, gosh, that's crazy. It took 6 weeks for just that one scene.
I mean, they do have some crossover in Saturday Night Live. Obviously, Steve Martin came on a number of times while Bill Murray was a cast member there. But it's just one of those things where it's just like, it's not too late. Somebody call them both up and make this happen now.
A long, slow root canal.
Yeah. Yes, there definitely is room for two geriatric people in a retirement home or something like that with Bill Murray and Steve Martin. So
have them be the live action Statler and Waldorf of
I was thinking like Grumpy Old Men.
Hey, yeah.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Do you think that the Masochist is like the 1960s version had the flower eater, like that weird character?
Oh, yeah, I like that character actually.
It's funny. Funny. Right?
It was one of my favorite parts of that 60s thing. And what Dustin's talking about, for those who haven't seen it, is there's this character that seems to just be like Mr. Know-It-All about all plant stores, because he goes around all the plant stores and he's like salting and peppering plants, and he orders like a dozen of like chrysanthemums and just sits there and eats them in front of people. And it's really strange and funny. I'm sitting there going like, that is unexpected. That's one of the funniest things in the original.
I gotta get home. My wife's cooking gardenias for dinner.
Yeah, exactly. And oddly, he was kind of like the voice of reason in that version, which you would not think from a flower eater.
Yeah, he gives him the. I'm just the only thing. I'll make it brief. I was just gonna say, I feel like you need a screwball. You need a real oddball, and that's what Bill Murray is in this production, whereas the flower eater is that in the first.
Yeah, and there's a lot of little moments that go to bigger name actors, and I was really impressed. Like, I mean, Christopher Guest gets a tiny little like 2-line scene. He does an amazing job with it. Jim Belushi. Sorry, I wish John Belushi were in this, but no, we get Jim Belushi. Jim Belushi gets a small role. John Candy is a very weird radio host. I mean,
he did a good job with that.
So, I mean, there's just amazing craft, and like everybody must have either wanted in on this, because they get some amazing casting that goes pretty deep into this. And, I want to really credit them. Like, how did they get everybody so right? they had money as part of it. You know, this is a $25 million production. That's actually pretty high for the movie of this time. So
it's something to say, like, how did they get it right? Well, by not picking Madonna, right? But by not or like the targeting like works out. Like, I think we do this a lot of the times on the show. Is like, what do you think about if it were instead of Nicole Kidman, if it was Reese Witherspoon or something like that? And there is kind of a bias. Like, once you've seen something in its form, it is then doubly as difficult to ever imagine somebody else in it.
There's one of those two here of Eddie Murphy was considered for the voice of Audrey too, instead of what was his name? Levi Stubbs. Levi Stubbs, yeah. And so it's just like Levi Stubbs was so perfect. I actually wouldn't put Eddie Murphy in there now, and I love Eddie Murphy. So, although I get at the time why you would have said like, "What if we got Eddie Murphy?" I'd be like, "Yeah."
Well, and Vincent Gardenia only got that role because his last name stands for flower shop in Italian.
He's good too.
He is good. I love his like throaty, like the way he says things. Seymour, an axe murderer. Like his throaty like diction is fun. Everybody sounds so great in this movie. Everybody has a distinct sound, and even like not just when they're singing, but just talking to one another. What you said, when Christopher Guest comes in, he comes in like incredibly boldly, like one note. Wow, what an strange and interesting plant! Like it's exactly that for the whole time. While I'm here, better get 12 dozen roses. Like, everybody has such a unique sound to this. You could honestly say anything about this movie, and I would then like, let's talk about how amazing that is. It's great.
So this movie has it takes a very large soundstage, and it is made for $25 million, as I mentioned. That even surpasses Alien, which was a 1986 movie that we've also covered. Check out that episode. It's a very good one that we did. But this budget was really large. It was shot in the Pinewood Studios, and I believe at the 007 lot this is a big production, and a lot of craft went into this. The set was very elaborate, and obviously the amount of puppetry that went into this was so over the top. DJ, did you get to enjoy any of what it took to make this?
Oh my gosh, every moment of it. The sets are exceptionally beautiful, and the shots too, like from your 1-point perspectives to your 2-point perspectives to kind of like the layering you see and the kind of the depth in the scenes. And again, it's, it is a set. It is not a real city. It feels like a real city. Like, they even have a model kind of subway kind of running in the background to simulate what New York City may look like. And I thought it was just beautiful and brilliantly done.
I think that it felt like the city, but it also felt like a set at the same time. And it walks the line. I keep talking about walking the line, but I mean, it does.
Different movie.
Yeah. But there's something almost, I would say, Tim Burton that's hyper reality to it. It's so terrible and dark and dismal and terrible that, yes, we all know that the slums of New York were particularly not nice as white flight was evacuating the city, and this just wasn't a very nice place to live anymore. But they amp it up, and they show you every little puddle he's stepping into, and it becomes a character, and it is because that they've added enough layering and detail into that, much like a stage performance would do, but because it's on camera and you're up to it and you're panning around, you're moving around it, they took it to a whole nother level. So the set design has a lot of character in it that I think if you literally just shot on location, it wouldn't have this hyper dismal thing that is a character. Like Skid Row, the people are so unhappy in the way that it's shot and stuff. I live here because I have to live here.
Yeah, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
This is the other interesting thing that varies between the 1960s version and the 1986 version, because in the 60s version, it is very clearly set in Los Angeles. And Skid Row is an actual neighborhood in LA, right, which we then get the song from, and so it's to kind of transpose this back to New York City is a very kind of interesting leap, which I appreciate. And I think it is beautiful, and it panned out in the end, basically.
LA is still beautiful all the time, whereas New York can be grimier and grosser. Think about the colors of Seymour's like sweater vest, like gray, maybe dark blue, some like khaki. Like everything outside is grays and browns and wet. It looks like it just rained, or if it didn't rain, it's humid. The cobblestones are just a dark color. And then you do get a stark contrast, like when you get into the bright white dentist's office or lobby, or you get the contrast of the incredible cutaway to the Matchbox in the suburbs, somewhere that's green, which is like almost a relief for your eyes, right? You ever feel like when you're watching a movie, like your brain is in a mode, and sometimes like you need like your brain to blink, like your eyes need to blink, sometimes your brain needs to blink. I found the thing that was the movie that I needed the most blinks in was Birdman. Remember how in Birdman it's shot as if it's continual, right? So because of that, your brain never stops working. And so what you do is with this movie, you get little glimpses towards the future with the two little kids, in the suburbs, and the Tupperware party. I believe you even get a cartoon bird flying in there.
You do?
I remember asking my mom, "What is that?" And my mom remembers doing Tupperware parties with her mom, with my mom. Like, oh, this is what you do. You'd get women over and you'd sell this or that, like very much like early multi-level marketing. And it was a thing you do in the suburbs. And then the dentist's office, and then I think even like the radio station gives you just a little bit of a break from, oh man, it's just dark and grimy here all the time. It's a lot of it's shot at night, and it's also purposefully done because you take that same alleyway with the fire escapes from West Side Story, and it's brightly lit and beautiful and shining white teeth. But that same place in this movie is dark, and there's a closed gate, and there are people climbing up it, saying that downtown there's no room for us because we're dangerous. It's a scary seeming place. God, you can get me talking about this movie for a 3-hour podcast. I need to shut up.
I mean, it's one of those amazing things that they also got right is in the set pieces. You mentioned the other thing I want to mention that very, very Tim Burton-like, and I saw Edward Scissorhands on this, was the Somewhere It's Green number. Like the Better Homes and Gardens suburban reality that they created really had this like it's super real. Like the grass is astroturf, the colors are hyper bright, and everything is just really overdone. And again, that's a stylistic move that Frank Oz, the director, made that, again, played off the nostalgia and the contrast and the juxtaposition of Skid Row versus this Somewhere That's Green reality. And it's just really, really, I mean, I think the camera works better than this movie necessarily was expecting it to be, or what you would expect for it, I should say. And the set design is very good. It's obvious that it is well funded, but they use their money very wisely, I think.
And sometimes you'll have a missing piece of, like if this store exists, if this storefront exists, it should have a back room. This one does. It should have a cellar at a place where deliveries come. It has that. If you're missing something, like in the dentist's office, you should have a waiting room, a receptionist's desk. You should have his shrine to his mother. Obviously, every dentist's office needs the shrine to your mother.
I like that it's an old man too.
Oh, mama. So yeah, like you mentioned, the subway going off in the back, or even in the alternate ending, you're able to see so much of this city that seems real. And I mean, I think I've seen it enough where I'm like, oh yeah, this is very clearly sets, but it does seem real. But maybe I've just got the lenses on because I already know how much I love the movie. But
I think it's a character. I think it's amped up.
Good point.
I think it's amped up to become so much of what's there. Their wardrobe's over the top 60s too. It's more 60s than the 60s might have even been, if you know what I mean. So no, but Frank Oz, DJ, have you gotten to enjoy much of his work as a director? Obviously, this is Miss Piggy, this is Gonzo, and I just wanted to, like, we'd think of Frank Oz as being more Yoda and the puppeteer, but he is actually also a good filmmaker.
Yeah, The Dark Crystal, Death at a Funeral, yes, countless films. I do love his work. I do want to change topic, though, because something I didn't know, the screenplay being by Howard Ashman. I have never really looked into this individual before, didn't know his name before this, but then looking back at it, he did The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, and Beauty and the Beast, which were really culminating or pivotal films for me as a kid, basically. And it makes sense now looking back at this, oh, I get it. It all checks out now. So that was a good surprise for me to find that out.
And composer Alan Menken, the same guy from Beauty and the Beast. We actually covered Beauty and the Beast earlier this year, and Howard Ashman was so pivotal to that, as you mentioned. He's the brainchild that really did that, and then Alan Menken is the composer who works with him on Beauty and the Beast. It's funny that's the same guys working early on together here, and these songs do have the emotional punch, as I think Dustin had alluded to earlier. I mean, they pulls you in, and you're right. It's made by people who really know how to make a musical, tell story while they're doing it too.
The thing that makes me think about is with Alan Menken or with what is Ashman? Howard Ashman.
Yeah.
You realize this guy's name is attached to these 4 incredible movies, incredible successful movies that are timeless now. It makes you think when you hang on to a name like Ashman, the name of it's not. I don't think that's a household name. I wouldn't say Howard Ashman is a household name, and so Spielberg is a household name. Scorsese is a household name. For me, the one that's not a household name that if I see that his name is attached, I'm going to give it a shot, is Luc Besson. If it's a Luc Besson flick, I think the last one I saw was Lucy.
Well, Luc Besson is definitely, he's got a fan following.
He's got a fan following, but I wouldn't say it's a household name.
I guess I'm a household full of movie nerds. I don't know.
There you go. Yeah. Well, you also said his name right, as opposed to me who said it. Besson. Luc Besson.
Luc Besson.
Luc Besson. Yep. But there's now, if I ever see anything where it says Howard Ashman involved, you have to know it's going to be incredible.
Yes.
It was so great.
And another good Steve Martin movie is Dirty Rotten Scoundrels as well. And he also worked together with Steve Martin on Bowfinger and House Sitter. In fact, I've now realized Frank Oz goes back to Steve Martin a lot. But
that's cool.
Yeah. You know what, though? Frank Oz was coming off The Muppets Take Manhattan. And his work with The Muppets is Star Wars that made him so ideal to do this. When it's funny, he kind of got the job for his puppetry abilities to be able to oversee all of that. But I'll be honest with you, as Dustin just pointed out, I mean, he's got a really good knack for comedy movie making in its own right. He's really good at keeping it tight, keeping it short, doing a good job, and making you care about the characters, because that's something that you come to like. What About Bob is very heartwarming. Dirty Rotten Scoundrels is very heartwarming. Little Shop of Horrors, you care about the characters in this. And so he has a really, really great ability. He does so many projects. It's a shame he didn't get to make more movies as a director, because he's got a good ability to tell a good story, make you care about the characters, but then he also comes with this unbelievable ability to have this technical expertise from his work with Jim Henson and the Muppets and Sesame Street and all of these things. I love Frank Oz. He's so cool. I mean, he's Master Yoda.
Well, and the other thing is, you said it, he would probably be known most for his puppetry, but when you've got groups or a brain trust of people that you continually work with, you realize that you don't just have the one talent. And if you're exceptional at one thing, it doesn't mean you can't be close to exceptional at something else. So the idea, I think, this makes me think of when we did our Monty Python and the Quest for the Holy Grail, is that, yes, while they are all great comedians, one of them has a better eye for direction, and another one has a better eye for scheduling. And some of them are particularly bad at other things. But in this case, we get to learn, Frank Oz, aside from the puppetry, also has all the great qualities you mentioned.
DJ, do you like the fact that we have the puppets? Because I'm positive if you make this movie, 20 years later, everything's going to be CGI. Do you like when this movie's made and that's a little capsule of puppeteering at a high level?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine this as CGI, and I don't know that I want to see it as such, considering that early CGI kind of has not held up as well through time, and this is still very convincing. One little trick I learned is that they actually had to film the plant talking at slower frames per second and speed it up to make it look more believable, which is pretty interesting.
So yeah, Moranis had to actually act or lip sync his lines slow, right? That's amazing. I mean, it looks so convincing, and that doesn't show at all. Even when I read that very thing that you're mentioning, I was kind of going back for it. It does not suffer for that at all. In fact, if you really start to pay attention to the Audrey 2 and how it moves its lips and how it moves every little piece of it, there's so much attention for every syllable that it's saying. That's why they're doing it, so that they can craft all of those fine little motions and stuff like that. And that attention to detail and, obviously taking more time on the set, that's really impressive and creative too for coming up with that solution.
Yeah. It's very articulate, and it's crazy to look at all the small little movements in just the mouth alone to make it kind of a convincing kind of portrayal.
Yeah.
Even when it's small, when he's in Wink Winkleman's office or studio, and the little Audrey 2 is looking at, I think it's, I don't know, his receptionist or something is bending over, and her derriere is in the air.
And she's wearing a red dress.
The little tiny Audrey 2 gives like this sort of like, oh my God, look at this. And it's like, this is just a mouth with no eyes that you've barely seen move yet. But like, it kind of like, ooh, and then looks up at Seymour to see if he's looking, and he's not. And so like, then you can see like the plant gets mischievous, even though all you're seeing is the difference of angles of a flat mouth. And somehow the puppetry works. Of course, I don't know if I've said it on this podcast, but the people that know me closest know I'm a gigantic Muppet fan and always loved everything that they've done. I would say Muppets Take Manhattan is down on my list, but you include just this awesome.
I mean, he's involved with anything Muppets. Like I said, he's always involved. So it's not that's just what he was coming off of for the direction on this one. But yeah.
I think it's the Henson Muppet Workshop is behind it, perhaps. I don't know. That gets off the top of my head, but it's just done differently, and it's done so well. I'm with you, DJ. I wouldn't see this if it were CGI. It's not the same.
So we talked about the set design and the puppeteering and all this stuff, but I mean, it extends into the wardrobe too. DJ, what is it that this wardrobe is adding to that nostalgic feel, right?
100%, yeah. Like, Audrey, she has very good attire, from her cheap and tawdry fashion to her Better Homes and Gardens fashion. But also I want to give a shout out to the Greek chorus, who they go from like a kind of a 180 from being like background kind of characters in the city, kind of inner city people, to like wearing these beautiful dresses and this just kind of beautiful wardrobe, hair, makeup, heels, gloves. I particularly like in the doo-wop one about the eclipse, the kind of Indo-Western kind of inspired collar dresses that they're wearing, like the green silk dresses, beautiful.
And they don't get rained on either. I think that was.
They don't.
I think that's a tricky thing. Everything else is pouring around them, but somehow I guess they have a foam disc or something up above them. I actually didn't read how they did this, but I did notice it was like they're dry.
Music is magical in ways that we truly don't understand. I totally second what DJ said about the three girls, Ronette, Chiffon, and Crystal. My favorite of theirs is they're like matching gloves with their sequin dresses during supper time.
Yes.
They're just so glam and so exactly what you want out of this group. And so much so that they're actually given like a little scene where there's actually nothing going on in the plot. During, I think it is Some Fun Now, there's some time when we're like, all right, we're advancing the plot a little bit. And now we're just going to watch these three girls dance on the rooftop for like 45 seconds. And it's like, all right, give them a little bit of their due. Like give them some screen time. Like they're awesome. Just dancing and having fun. And it's like this, like that's kind of all you need of it. But give them, they have a little bit of dialogue, but then they show up to do their job, which is to be backing vocals, and they knock it out of the park. I'm glad they got that screen time.
So DJ, go ahead.
I'm glad you mentioned supper time, because the brilliance of that shot is like you see the gloves first coming out of the alley, just like sparkling, and then you see them kind of appear out of the shadows. Beautiful.
They're leaning in like, is this about to happen? Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So soundtrack, this is going to be hard to do. DJ, what are some of the key musical numbers that you just love as far as the songs go?
Okay. I mean, quick take, and I might regret this later. We'll see. My favorite song is Skid Row, aka Downtown. The next number 2 is going to be Suddenly Seymour, because that one makes me cry every damn time.
It's a classic. That's what I think you think of when you think of this movie, for sure. I mean, it's that moment in the movie where they realize that they can be together. Obviously, you had to kill her. I was going to say, obviously, you had to feed her boyfriend to a plant to make that happen. But yeah, he did look like plant food to me. But by the way, that scene's got a lot of great camera work going on in it too, and it's just a really powerful. Like I said, Ashman makes you care about. He really makes you care about these characters, and so yeah, that's a heartfelt scene. Dustin, what about you? What are some of the songs that you like?
Got to go with DJ. Skid Row is another one that, as an ensemble kind of song, is great. The movie version and the album version are a little different. I like them both. Supper Time is great. I think the bass line in Supper Time is really good, and you get there's a menacing to that particular song. It almost as if, like, think of somebody whispering you to do the wrong thing. He's whispering all the things that you can get. Like he has the power there. I think that's a great one. And then I will add on aside from Suddenly Seymour, I'll go ahead and put that, like, while I love everyone, I will just go ahead because I do love everyone. I would say that, like, the Meek Shall Inherit is maybe like the furthest down my list. It's hard to say there's the worst song.
I think this one suffered because
needs to be there.
They were gonna make that more ambitious. It's actually trimmed down, and they had some really cool trippy things that they did with it. But then they cut a lot of them out. It's basically Seymour kind of becoming consumed in this world, and I wish they hadn't cut that out. We're talking like 60 seconds maybe, or 40 seconds.
Yeah. Well, imagine if those changes, like you're talking about, like 60 seconds here, 60 seconds there, adding a song, the different ending. Some of the changes really, really would affect, like, making this movie even better than it already is.
I was going to say, I think they should have kept that in. It would have been expensive and, like, trippy, but I mean, I like it. I wish they'd done it. Like, you can see, if you YouTube it, you can see where they cut that part of it out. So, Question of Merit would definitely be one of the ones that would have been better. There's 4 songs that didn't make it from the off-Broadway performance. There's Closed for Renovation, Mushnick and Son, and Now It's Just the Gas, and Call Back in the Morning were all cut out. But they did add in, so Mean Green Mother from Outer Space was new and written for the song.
Yeah, best original song, yeah.
Yeah,
well, it didn't win, but...
It didn't win, but it was nominated. But to your point, Dustin, I don't know if you've ever gone back and listened. Have either of you guys gone back and listened to these 4 that got cut out of here?
I did, yeah.
Good cuts,
it's
bad cuts?
Me. I don't know them.
I agree with Dustin's sentiment about the Meek Shall Inherit the Earth, because it starts off really strong and then it just doesn't deliver in the end, and I wish it would have been amped up a little bit more.
I think it cut a verse and a chorus off, and it evolves into another song while it does that. Like I said, it's a twisty song, and it goes into this, like, Alice in Wonder world, like, as, like, Seymour's thinking internally to himself, and, like, these plants are, like, literally having vines that wrap him up, and he's, like, sees Mushnick's face and blood's running down the painting of his face and stuff like that. It's symbolic, it's artistic, it's ambitious in a way that a lot of the rest of this movie might not have done. Tonally, it might have been different, but it's so good because it's internal to his dreamlike state. Wish they'd kept it. So
it is fun to think about like what this movie could be, and I think all the changes we are proposing,
or keep them, do more.
Let's go for it, right? Let's another 25 million. We'll get to work on it.
Yeah. All right. So, do you guys want to hand out some awards?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh yeah.
My favorite time. DJ, give us the honor. Who is your MVP of Little Shop of Horrors?
Obviously, in case you haven't already guessed it, it's going to be Ellen Greene.
All right. Yes, and she's amazing. She's my pick as well. Definitely. Dustin, what about you? Are you going to be different?
I am going to be different. I'm going to go with I think Rick Moranis shows some range I didn't anticipate, and I think his character is. I often ask on this podcast, maybe every time I'm on, who are we rooting for, or why are we rooting for them? And there's no question here. You really want to see him succeed, but it's Rick Moranis as Seymour, not just the character Seymour. I love him.
Nope, that's a great choice there. And I could have easily gone with Moranis. And honestly, I could have gone with Frank Oz, because I just taking and adapting this off-Broadway play to screen so well, and I think giving us the best version of it. He did a great job there. So, but Ellen Greene is just so good. Her vocals are top-notch, and she creates this amazingly over-the-top character that I don't think anybody could reproduce. So, best supporting, DJ.
Supporting Greek chorus.
They do make this so much better, and every turn of the way, their vocals are so good.
Mm-hmm.
And I dig that kind of Supreme's portrayal as well. That's a great call. I somehow didn't even remember them because it's been so long since I had seen this movie, and now I'm sitting there going like, man, how could I ever forget? They're so important to what makes the ingredients of this work.
Yeah, that's a good choice for supporting, because like it's not about their dialogue, it's about their presence.
Justin, what about you?
It's Ellen Greene. I honestly, Rick Moranis and Ellen Greene were 1A and 1B, but one of them is clearly not a supporting. Like neither of them are really supporting actors. They're both leads. So I just had to find a place to put both their names. But she's incredible, and we all know.
I'm gonna go with Steve Martin on this one. He just is so over the top and wild. Like I said, he was the first thing I saw when I first stumbled across this movie, and that's what hooked me. So I think that goes a long way. He's not in it a ton. I mean, he's in it a fair bit, but I mean, boy, what a great character for him. Hidden gem, DJ.
I put the dental assistant. I think the physical comedy she has to endure is so wonderful.
It's always fun to see a fist go forward with no resistance and just the full knockout.
It is good. That's good slapstick for sure. Dustin, what about you with best hidden gem?
My hidden gem is actually also during dentist. There's several different patients. He's going between different rooms, and one of the rooms he's twisting a tooth from a little boy, and right before he pulls the tooth out, like right before, and there's like a break in the music, he looks at the screen, like I'm about to do this, aren't I? Yank! Like he just very short. He like breaks the fourth wall a little bit, like, oh, I'm gonna savor this, and then he yanks it out from that kid.
I thought you were about to go headgear set when someone comes out with no ability to talk anymore, and Bill Murray's like, oh, you should consider yourself very lucky.
Yeah.
They have to do that to remove the jaw.
Oh yeah, it's also old hat to him. Oh yeah, they have to do that. Yeah, he referred me from a guy on Tuesday who I actually was referred to from a guy from Monday. Everything about those dentist scenes is so good.
My hidden gem's going to be Christopher Guest. He doesn't have any lines, but boy, his face just looks like it was sent like with several volts of electricity. Just like he's so stiff, rigid, wide-eyed, and so like a 1950s infomercial. And he lays it on so thick when it's just like, say, while I'm here, why don't I buy $50 worth of roses? It's like, $50? I only have 100. Can you break it? No. Then I'll have to buy twice as many.
Two, does it? Yeah. That's awesome.
He's just so handy, and I love it. Recast, very hard to do. One of the hardest times I've ever had to do it for this entire podcast, but it's got to be done. DJ, who are you recasting and who are you putting in their place?
So I did recast Ellen Greene's character, but only because I've been watching a lot of MJ Rodriguez from Pose fame perform Suddenly Seymour, and I kind of want to see that now.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I'll have to look that up. I didn't see that. So, Dustin, what about you? Recast.
I want to ask: is this MJ Rodriguez POC?
Yes.
And that's maybe something that will, because we do have some like Jewish, like Yiddish type humor, but it's a very white cast. Aside from the voice, but you don't know of the voice of Audrey too. But like that's something that we can, whenever we look at some of these retro movies, we realize that like here's another all white cast, or like with West Side Story, it was like here's a white woman wearing brown face. Like we see that a lot. So yeah. I'm totally on board with that. My recast is, and once again, very difficult, is Mel Brooks as Mushnik. I think he would eat up those little quick jokes, and I think it also give him a chance because Mushnik has to be a moral voice, and he has to struggle with the idea like, do I confront him? In the 1960s version, he thinks about going to the police. He ends up not doing it. And he's got to be a little sleazy. I think it works out perfectly. We would just have to have Mel Brooks eventually turn the knob down, and I don't know who does that. Maybe Frank Oz is the guy that can say, Mel, chill out and just do a scene seriously for once.
Wow, yeah. I think it's going to be a very different portrayal of the character, but I'm intrigued by that. That's very intriguing. I cheated. I went super deep into the cast, and the news reporter who's frustrated in the plant shop, I thought, what if this is Dan Aykroyd? Like, he's so good at like doing like this like news type guy like on the screen. Like I could see him getting off the camera and being pushy with like, hey, make the plant better, like, and being impatient with him. Obviously you'd have to give him a little more screen time, but in the same way that John Candy's role was insignificant, like John Candy, they wanted him to be Mushnik, but he just didn't have time. And he's just like, I really would like to do this. Is there something small you can give me? I'd like to do the same thing for Dan Aykroyd and just like give him a piece of this and see what would happen if you throw it to yet another comedic powerhouse.
Oh, see, that's so weird because I don't like John Candy as Mushnik. I like him as Wink.
Well, be glad he was too busy to take on Mushnik.
Oh, I'm already glad. You can tell it's been an hour and a half and I've been smiling the whole time.
Yeah. So the best shot, DJ. Because there's actually some good camera work, as we mentioned in here.
Yeah, so best shots, plural, for me is the entire song of Downtown / Skid Row.
There are some great transitions and stuff like that. Even the beginning, like right off the bat, that old woman coming up the alley.
One point perspective, she's belting it out. I also love, like, it's a very small shot, but it's like when you see the ensemble cast, like, walking on the street and they do a close-up of their feet stepping up on the curb, and it's just like this, they're forming a single file line, and it really just emphasizes the dejected nature of the setting and like the
camera's on a track during that too. Like it's moving through, like it's not just them walking up, like it's moving as well. I know it very clearly. Yeah.
And that old woman who started singing there, this was one of her last performances. She dies not too far after this, but this is Beatrice Reading. She's a Tony winning singer, so you're right. She can certainly belt it. So I considered her for my hidden gems. Just such a good group of people here. Yeah. Best shot, Dustin.
It is during supper time, and I think DJ is saying, like, when you see them emerge from the shadow, that's one of those shots. But mine is when you see their kind of glittery pumps walking across the street, like in front of the camera, low shot, and they're walking in front of and all you see are their shoes and their calves. I love that because the focus is on like seeing the Audrey 2 and Seymour like through the window, and then you're also seeing it through their legs as they're walking across. I loved that shot.
Something is threatening about that too. Like
the click clack of the heels. Yeah,
them walking towards it, plus the music building its tension is like something's coming. So, my best shot is going to be it's in Suddenly Seymour. The camera turns around. They're in this burned out basement, if you will. So it's an open to the air like set of burned down ruins, and there's a shot there's a brick wall that has crumbled in the middle, and it's framing Seymour and Audrey as they are facing each other, and they're about to come together. So they both have sung a verse on their own, and now they're starting to sing together, and so they're looking at each other, and the camera kind of zooms in, and it changes height as well, and it kind of moves up in kind of this hopeful manner. It just captures the song so well. It uses the set that they had built really well, and it's a lot like the things that DJ was mentioning. It's like, this stuff's littered with this, but perhaps it was this climax of emotions that did it for me. But yeah, nobody mentioned the Somewhere That's Green shot. When they zoom out of her dreamlike quality, they had to use a series of cranes, and because they were using the largest sound studio in use at the time, they had to like zoom back, cut, and then go to an even larger crane, and then zoom back some more. So,
and they found an animated bird that they, I don't know how much they paid the animal wrangler, but they were able to get one of those really colorful birds in.
You had one of those birds over your shoulder there yourself, Dustin, earlier.
Here in my beautiful hill country office, yes.
It was actually on from 9 to 5 from the poisoning.
All right, best wardrobe or makeup moment, DJ. I have a feeling Audrey's going to get this for you, but what part?
She is, yeah. So she's wearing a red dress after the flower shop becomes successful. Yeah. And Seymour had forgotten an arrangement. He rushes in, explains to Audrey what he needs, and she's like running through, birthday, like something, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, funeral. She's like, oh, get me the lilies.
I'm going to need some glitter.
Need some glitter.
Blow.
All right, Dustin, best wardrobe or makeup moment?
Of course, I always give a worst and a best. The worst is when she says my arm's in a cast and it's just like a piece of lace. I mean, it's funny, but that's not a cast. And then the best is the dentist's leather outfit. He's wearing leather pants, and I believe his doctor's coat is some type of white pleather as well. And I like that it's short sleeved. It's just such a great look. More so than his black leather jacket is his operating outfit.
I'm with you. Dr. Scrivello's dental/pharmacy jacket, where the buttons are all asymmetrically done on one side.
Yeah.
And then it's contrasted by his super black hair and vinyl apron.
It's like that M. Bison was a dentist.
Yeah, and his black hair. So you have this very white scene, and it seems off-putting because it is so stark and sterile and stuff like that. So the black that he's wearing pops a lot and seems more threatening. Yeah. So it's really good use of color, or lack of color, I guess, in this case. But it's great. And obviously Steve Martin doing everything he's doing is just over the top. To even think that a dentist would be this motorcycle gang guy coming in off the streets and then immediately walking into a dentist's office, it's very funny. So change one thing, DJ.
I didn't fill this out because I can't. I really can't.
No.
It's pretty difficult.
Get him, Russell. Tell him he has to.
Oh, no. Yeah. We'll let's help. Maybe it's eat somebody else. Maybe it's add a music number back in. Come on, man. Let's think about this. What is it your favorite thing, and then do it again.
I'll go first as to give him some time to think of one.
Yeah.
All right. So mine is I don't dig the way that Audrey 2 was toying with Seymour at the end. We know that he can grow these tendrils so quickly.
Wait, you don't like him shooting the revolver at him?
No, not the revolver's funny. I think this is the only part of the movie where things they don't drag. They're just a little too long. They want to have the little mouths singing the climbing notes and chords, and it happens too much. And it particularly happens in the alternate ending. But that's a great song, but we know that this movie can do ominous music. We know that it can climb, and we know that it can do scary, dangerous sounding music. And this particular song is a jaunty type of song. So I would say that we need to shorten that out. And if we're gonna do it to where Seymour gets eaten, let's wrap it up and do it faster, because
Leonard Maltin would not like that. He was upset that this movie, I think he only gave it 1.5 stars. He said that the plant is too mean. He said it starts out fun, but when the plant is too mean, it stops being fun. And he rated the 1961 higher, and I said, you're being a wet blanket, Leonard Maltin.
Everybody's wrong once in a while. All right, DJ, what's your change one thing?
Well, I mean, this is easy. I would say add some more songs back in, but
Hey,
it's a cop out.
Yeah, I think
there's an answer.
I think I've said add that back in so many times because Frank Oz didn't do anything wrong, so that's a pretty good safe answer. It's a short movie, so there's definitely room for it. I think a dream-like sequence of all of the plant taking over and keeping some of that mayhem is mine. I kind of tipped my hand earlier. It's just like, I think they literally threw out $5 million worth of work. I don't have the exact number right in front of me, but I do remember seeing, I was like, it is a significant percentage of the budget that just got tossed in the garbage. And I'm glad they went with the ending they did because it's happy. I like happy endings, but I do kind of enjoy seeing the plants go on a rampage. So
it is fun. It's cool.
Yeah. All right. Best quote, DJ.
This isn't really a quote, but when Seymour reveals the name of the plant to Mr. Mushnick and Audrey, there's like a slight pause.
Yep, I know exactly
Audrey,
what you mean.
Like does this cute little squeak that it's so funny. Like it's so like well timed and delivered. I just love it so much.
My mom laughed out loud when she did that. So, Dustin, how about you, man? What's your best quote?
I wrote so many, but I'm gonna go with Audrey's explaining why she's late, and Mushnick says, "Don't tell me you got tied up," and she goes, "No, just handcuffed a little."
I really liked it when he said, "I'm starting to think that nice boy is not such a nice boy."
Yeah.
Which Vincent Gardenia delivers that so well. Mine's going to be a line out of the song when Rick Moranis gets mad at seeing Steve Martin's character, Dr. Scrivello, like hitting Audrey, and they turn and the music turns up and they go, "The guy sure looks like plant food to me." And I just like that line of just like, all right, it's on, I'm going to kill him.
Oh, yeah, dude, off the top of my head. If you want a rationale, it isn't very hard to see. Yeah. Stop and think it over, pal. The guy sure looks like plant food to me.
So good. All right, we've come full circle. And on a scale of 0.5 to 5 stars, 5-star scale, half-star intervals, DJ, what would you rate Little Shop of Horrors?
We're going to clock in at a 5-0.
All right, and I detected that might be the case. Whenever you have a hard time changing one thing, that's a good sign you've got a 5-star on your hands. And it seems so in your wheelhouse. I'm now going to be looking for other things that take those nostalgia, like 60s nostalgic movie music, plus B movies from the mid-century kind of horror things like you had with Rocky Horror Picture Show, and then add in music. So I don't know if anything else does this, but I'm detecting now there's a sweet spot for you.
That's the spot. That's it right there.
That's it.
And unlike Rocky Horror Picture Show, this makes sense all the way to the very end. Dustin, what about you, man? 5-star scale.
Yeah, who needs the scale? It's a 5-0, man. It's absolutely 5 stars. I've never given as emphatic of a 5-star. There's no fault. There's no fault. The only thing is, can there be more? Right? If the only thing is, wish we could have that back, or could there be more, or what could we pick up off the editing room floor? When you type the movie title into YouTube and every available clip is already watched, like it's great. If I could give it higher than 5, I would.
I went in thinking, I was like, this is probably a really solid 4-star, maybe with the potential to come back and go 4.5. But I am also with you guys. I'm sitting there going like, A, how have I not paid a ticket to go see this in real life? Like to see a performance of this. B, the music in this is better than I thought it was. And C, the comedic performances are really good. And it's made beautifully well. And I'm sitting there going like, wow. This is actually one of my favorite musicals and comedies, certainly on the film version that I can think of, and I didn't realize it. So it's a sneaky 5, if there is such a thing. So I didn't see this one coming, and sometimes I kind of just rank the movies as we go through that throughout the year, but after I went and watched this one the first time, I just bumped it up, and I was like, wow, this is much, much better than I somehow remembered it being, and I intend to tell more people about it and recommend it to everybody now. So it's going to be a straight 5s this week. I'm going to ask you guys though, this in the world where everything gets remade, redone, how would you feel if here we are in the 2020s, someone said, we need to remake a movie version of Little Shop of Horrors? Yes or no, DJ?
I would say yes, and let's get a more diverse cast. I'm okay with it as long as that is what they do.
Okay. And Dustin?
There's 2 answers. If they're talking about redoing the movie, no. If they're talking about turning it into a beloved children's cartoon with several episodes a la Beetlejuice, then yes.
You actually have that already. Did you know?
No, I didn't know that.
There is a Saturday morning cartoon for Little Shop of Horrors. The plant doesn't actually eat anybody because they make it more friendly for kids, but it has a talking Venus flytrap companion in there. So yes.
Yeah.
So
let's do that in 2022 and have Drake be the plant or something. I don't know.
I'm okay with doing it again for the standpoint that plays get redone and revitalized all the time. I do want to keep it in the nostalgic 60s piece, and I'm pretty concerned what's going to happen when you CGI everything. So you're going to have to be really ambitious. You're going to have to do enough with it that it doesn't turn into like Cats. So you really have a tall order ahead of you basically to remake it. But because it's always fun to see different people singing really well in these roles, I'm open to it. However, I'm skeptical that I would like it as much as this one. So I'm going to say, sure, go ahead, remake it, because part of the magic of that is it introduces another generation or two to it, where they then go back and watch this one and then say, oh, this one's really good too. So I don't know that you're going to top this one though. Dustin, you want to help me pick a movie for next time? All right. It's a spooky time of the year, and we're going to get some movies that might not necessarily have come across your plate as being mainstream horror movies. These are on the newer side. So we're going to have Cabin Fever from 2002. 5 college graduates rent a cabin in the woods and begin to fall victim to a horrifying flesh-eating virus which attracts the unwanted attention of homicidal locals. Option 2, The Loved Ones from 2009. When Brent turns down his classmate Lola's invitation to prom, she concocts a wildly violent plan for revenge. And option 3, My Little Eye from 2002. 5 people are offered $1 million to spend 6 months together at an isolated mansion with cameras watching their every move.
Let's do option 2, The Loved Ones.
All right. It'll make you think twice again before turning down somebody for the dance. I'll tell you that ahead of time. So, all right, DJ, thank you so much, man.
Yeah, thank you all so much. This was great.
To all the lords, ladies, and knights of the Retro Movie Roundtable, thank you. We want you to reach out to us. We want to hear from you. So subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts. Give us a like on Facebook. Follow us at Twitter at @movie_retro. Email us at retromovieroundtable@yahoo.com. And producing and providing this podcast is fun but not free, so we invite you to support the show at our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/Retro Movie Roundtable. Any contributions you make will go towards making the show better. And as always, thank you for listening. Be good to each other and watch more movies. Dustin?
Charge 'em for the lice, extra for the mice, 2% for looking in the mirror twice. Here a little slice, there a little cut, 3% for sleeping with the window shut.